Look, I've seen and heard many stories about open marriages, and I don't think I've ever heard a single one end well outside of some celebrity relationships. And to each their own. Just like you're allowed to conduct your relationships any way you'd like, I'm allowed to crack jokes about it. Oftentimes when I see open marriages, it's usually one person in the relationship likes being humiliated, or the other person likes doing the humiliating. It's some sort of humiliation kink, or it's some sort of last-ditch effort to try to save a relationship that's beginning to fall off and feel stale. And instead of going the divorce route, the death of the relationship is instead drawn out through the process of opening up the marriage. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to bang your significant other, or tell you how to tell someone else how to bang your significant other, but I myself just can't really get behind the idea of somebody else getting behind my girl. I don't know, just something about my girl getting home after having her back freshly blown out by some random dude just doesn't sit right with me. Now in this video, I'm going to share my own experience with an open-ish relationship I had. Don't worry though, don't worry. I wasn't getting cucked. I'm not Sneeko, alright? Nobody was banging my girl. But first, I want to share this guy's story. I found this story on one of those Reddit thread narration pages, and I'm not gonna lie, it may be sad, but it absolutely cracked me up. Y'all gotta hear this.
I made the mistake of asking my wife for an open marriage and I regret it. My wife and I have been married for 19 years. We have one child. Our daughter moved out this summer after she enlisted in the armed forces. I love my wife, but I felt like the spark was gone from our lives. I didn't want to divorce her, so I proposed an open marriage. She was upset initially, but eventually she agreed. Like I said in the title of my post, I made a mistake. I have learned that just because I wasn't as attracted to my wife as I was when we got married, it doesn't mean other men would feel the same. My wife has so many men and dates she doesn't know what to do with them all. Meanwhile, it's the opposite for me.
Alright, so first of all, I'm sure you offended her by even proposing this. I mean, his wife is 44 years old, which he reveals later in the story, and that can be a tough time for a lot of women as they start to really notice that they're aging and they may start feeling less sexy and things like that. And by suddenly dropping the fact that you like to start sleeping with other women on her like that, this could make her feel inadequate, unattractive. This could deal a big blow to her self-esteem and a myriad of other issues. So when other men begin to show interest in her, an interest you've already shown to not have, as you've already expressed that your interest is set on other women, don't be mad when she starts getting her self-esteem back when other men begin showing the interest you're no longer showing. If you won't make her feel wanted and sexy, don't get butthurt when another man will.
Not only that, but after my wife agreed to an open marriage, I asked a woman who was a colleague of mine out on a date. I was a manager at my job, but I wasn't her manager. We worked in completely different divisions and our work had nothing to do with each other's jobs. But even though I wasn't her manager and I am in an open marriage, she complained to her manager and showed HR my messages. I lost my job.
So let me get this straight. You're in a management position and the first place you go to exercise your newfound sexual freedom is at the workplace? Brother, it doesn't matter that you're not her manager. Do you not understand how absolutely inappropriate that is? This dude has absolutely zero workplace etiquette or social awareness. That's some shit Michael Scott would do. And on top of all that, what do you mean messages? You actually mean to tell me that you texted a fellow employee that you were trying to break her back down butt booty naked and oiled up? You couldn't just wait until y'all cross paths in the break room and stirred up some small talk? You have anti-Riz, brother. You have workplace sexual harassment Riz. Bro, I'm sorry, but you're weird. You're actually just a weird guy. You're odd. That's a really weird thing to do.
I told my wife I want to close our marriage again because I was an idiot for suggesting it in the first place. She said no, she's happy with how things are. It's killing me when I know she is with other men. My brother called me a moron when I told him and said expecting my wife to look like she did when she got married made me a dunce. He even went so far as to say she takes good care of herself and is in great shape for 44. I love my wife and I don't want a divorce. I never wanted a divorce, which is why I proposed this in the first place. But she doesn't want to close the marriage.
Yikes. That's rough, dude. Imagine you're broke, you're bitchless, and you just hear your wife in the other room getting her backbone absolutely obliterated by some waiter she met at Applebee's while you're trying to watch Seinfeld in the living room. Yikes! That's really rough, dude. You keep turning up the volume and the clapping sounds just get louder and louder. That's deep. Alright, so here's where things get a little tricky, alright? So now he's trying to close the marriage, but it's only because he's not getting any action. I'm sure when he concocted this idea in one of his wet dreams, he saw himself, just slanging coochie left and right, but when reality set in and he realized, oh shit, I don't have the game I thought I had. And his wife is just out here getting pounded left and right all around town. Now he wants to close it. See, that's kind of unfair though, right? That's a little, and I'm sure his wife saw that. I'm sure she was like, oh wait, you just want to close it because you can't get any action. You're mad that I'm having all the fun. Not my problem. Go get some bitches. But the problem is, in order for an open marriage to work like this, both people need to be okay with it. And when he's actively expressing that he is no longer okay with it, and she's refusing to stop, well, it's not really an open marriage anymore, is it? It's kind of just you getting cheated on. See, the thing about open marriages and stuff is that it's absolutely imperative, empirical, that both people in the relationship are okay with it. And if that isn't the case, then this already dying relationship is just going to go downhill even faster. She shouldn't be happy if you're unhappy. And he says that. He's like, oh, well, she's happy, but you're unhappy. And somebody who claims to love you to this degree shouldn't be happy if you are unhappy. And they shouldn't be happy engaging in the thing that's making you unhappy. My advice would be to just divorce her. Cut your losses. Stop dragging this already crumbling marriage out even more. I mean, it's not even mentally healthy to stay in this relationship anymore. It seems like she has moved on and now you're just jobless, bitchless, and unhappy. Like you've kind of already lost it all. I mean, what's there left to even keep? I mean, you're holding on to a marriage that you were already unsatisfied with in the first place, and now you're even more dissatisfied. How is it going to get any better from here when clearly it's only gotten far worse? Cut your losses, champ. You gotta call it quits. And by the way, your brother would totally bang your wife. Just saying. So obviously, open relationships, open marriages, these things can be very, very tricky. And you have a lot of people out here who don't actually understand their limits or understand what could come with a relationship like this or a dynamic like this. They've probably fantasized about it or something, but seeing something like that take place right in front of you, seeing your significant other getting pounded right in front of your face, that can be very traumatizing. And it oftentimes is very traumatizing for the people involved. And people express this all the time because a lot of the time it comes from a place of desperation. It's a lot of people trying to cling on to a relationship or trying to keep things spicy. And in this moment of desperation, they fly a little too close to the sun. They step a little out of their comfort zone, and it's too much for them. And now they're experiencing something. They're exposing themselves to something that maybe their partner's ready. Maybe their partner can handle this. Maybe their partner's in for it and they love it, but you're not, you know, and now it's a traumatizing event for you that you just can't get past. And this ruins a lot of relationships. I've heard plenty of stories of exactly this happening. Somebody trying to, you know, experiment, you know, get a little spicy with their partner, try something new, and they just come out of it traumatized. They hate it. And now they may close the relationship and they can't even see their partner the same anymore. Now, this isn't me saying that all open relationships and open marriages are doomed to fail. They're just all bound to crumble and they're just never going to work. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying for a lot of people, they don't actually understand what could come with this. And oftentimes, at least from what I've seen, it has been unsuccessful. And I feel like a big thing about this dynamic is you have to recognize your limits. All right. So I dated a girl for a number of years. This was back when I was like 19 or 20 or whatever. And she had a thing for watching me do the nasty with other women. So she proposed the idea of opening the relationship up. Now, at first, I was reluctant. I was like, can we just have a normal relationship? I don't want this to, you know, I just felt like it was going to turn into something more. I didn't know where this was going. I felt like this, I don't know. It was just a lot for me to process in the moment. It was a very unfamiliar dynamic and it kind of caught me off guard quite a bit. I mean, she was bisexual and she, you know, expressed that she wouldn't mind, you know, having sex with other women with me. She didn't want to do it on her own. She wanted me to be a part of it. And she expressed that to me. So I didn't know how to process it all in the moment, but the more I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, this could be cool. I mean, yeah, this could be cool. I mean, I get to like bang women with my girl. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? Like, I don't know. I was feeling it. I was feeling it at the time. Now, I don't know how I would feel about that dynamic after my experience already with it that I'm going to get into. But in the moment, I was like, I'll try it. Now, at no point during this did she ever express a desire to be with other men, which was very refreshing. And I've already established, because I recognize my limits, I put it out there. I said, I'm not comfortable with this. We're not doing this. Absolutely not. No. With anything with a dude. Absolutely not. And that's what I feel is very important. People have to recognize their limits. And oftentimes when they jump in the deep end, they don't know that they can't even swim. And they just jump straight for it. And then they end up drowning in their own regret. The trauma they're going to walk out of this situation with, they can't handle it because they didn't recognize their limits. And I recognize my limits. I said, okay, I'm down to bang other girls with you. And she's the one that proposed the idea anyway. She was really into it. But I'm not down to have you do anything with other men. And she was 100% fine with that. Yeah. It was perfectly fine. We were living together in Brooklyn at the time, and she was modeling. So she obviously networked and knew a lot of people, and she knew a lot of people that were interested. She had a whole Tinder where she basically advertised what we were doing on it, and she would send me profiles and like get my stamp of approval for people that were interested. And I had my own Tinder that I was using. And we did this for a while, and everything went well. I mean, I was happy. She was happy. Yeah. But just because everything went well doesn't mean that this was healthy. This was overindulgence. That's what this was. It was overindulgence. And, you know, now looking back at it, I'm 23 now. I reflect on that era of my life, and it was too much. You know, a lot of people may not believe this, but I do. I think there needs to be a balance in everything, and sex is not excluded from that. And I'm not a fan of overindulgence. Even if it's available, just because it's there for you to indulge doesn't mean you overindulge. You know what I mean? Just because you have a endless basket of M&Ms doesn't mean you scarf down M&Ms all day. Even if you love M&Ms, don't scarf down all the M&Ms as much as you can. Balance, okay? Do not overindulge. And that's what we were doing. We were overindulging in sex together, and you know, it may have been fun at the time, but it was unhealthy, and it created unhealthy habits in my head. You know, after, you know, the relationship, I had a very hard time being with just one person, and it had a negative impact on me. And what I learned from meeting a lot of people in that realm is that it really does stem from a place of trauma with a lot of these people. And I'm just speaking from my personal experience because, you know, I met a lot of people while doing this. When you really speak to them and get to know them, a lot of them have deep trauma, whether it's family or whatever the case may be. Just the source of the trauma doesn't matter. A lot of them are dealing with trauma, and this excessive sex is just a manifestation, just some sort of coping mechanism of that trauma. And it's not healthy. No therapist would go recommend you go have sex with a bunch of random people if you're struggling with something. You know what I mean? That's never going to be the answer. It's not healthy, this overindulgence, especially in sex. You know, it can have a lot of negative impacts on the mental. And I'm speaking from not only my experience, but from a lot of people that I have met during this process. It's not healthy. And I've already made a whole hour-long video of kind of the aftermath of this situation and like my mentality throughout it. So you can go check that video out if you would like. And I wanted to include my own experience because, you know, despite the fact that I am ripping on, you know, open marriages, open relationships, I'm cracking jokes and, you know, kind of critiquing it a bit. I have engaged in it. And I say this to say it wasn't bad for me. And when we broke up, it had nothing to do with that at all. Had absolutely nothing to do with that. It didn't harm our relationship at all. I feel like it was just overindulgence. It was too much sex, and I feel like it was unhealthy. It was fun, you know, it was short-term fun, but ultimately I believed it was unhealthy. And just because something is fun or you're getting what you want doesn't mean it's healthy. And obviously when we did it, we had a lot of rules on our own to keep it comfortable for both of us. And luckily enough for me, she was okay with everything I proposed. I didn't want her doing anything on her own. If I wasn't present for anything, then nothing was taking place. Obviously, guys were completely off limits. We were living together at the time. So, you know, I knew her schedule. I knew where she was at all times. I knew she wasn't out doing anything. And we had to approve the same people. It couldn't be anyone that we were too close with or anything like that. We had a lot of, you know, boundaries to keep it comfortable for us. But, and we stayed within those boundaries, and everything was good. Nothing like spiraled out of control or anything like that. We were just kind of doing our thing. I don't know, but it could have went very wrong if we didn't establish those boundaries. You know, when you do something like this, you have to make sure that both parties are comfortable. And if you can't find some sort of middle ground, you know, or find that like comfort zone where you can still engage in this, but keep things comfortable for everybody, then it's likely that it can go very, very wrong. And if at any point she was like, hey, I want to start doing things with guys now, I would have been like, no, absolutely not. We're not doing that. And I'm not gonna even force myself to try to enjoy that or try to be a part of. Nope. Absolutely not. You have to know your limits, you set your boundaries, and you stand on that. Because sure, she was okay with watching me do things with other women, but first of all, I didn't propose it in the first place. It was her idea, and she got off on that. That was something she was actually into. I know that sounds weird because you don't meet a lot of women who are into that, but she was, and I wasn't. I wasn't into seeing her do that with anybody else, you know, so it didn't happen. And she knew me very well. We dated for years. She knew I wasn't even the type to almost consider her doing anything with another guy. She was perfectly fine with that. So that's how it went. It went well. Nobody out there can say I was the only one winning and she was getting the short end of the stick because she was getting what she wanted. Anyways, yeah, I came across this video. I thought it was funny. I wanted to share it with y'all and share my own experience with this. I have a whole hour-long video about this same exact topic, but I elaborate on it much deeper that you can check out. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the rest of y'all's day. Stay healthy. Peace.